tell you all about your inspections. Once you're under contract, you'll be getting an email from us with a list of inspectors that we've used time and time again. All of them I've personally used on my own property and I trust them. But if you have an inspector of your own that you'd like to use, by all means, go ahead and use it. That's fine. What we need to do is find a time for inspection that works for you, for the seller, and for us, as well as for the inspector. And sometimes that can be a little tricky, but we'll do our best to make that happen. Depending on the size of the house, you can count on anywhere from 2 to 4 hours for inspections. So the day of the inspection, one of our agents will meet you at the house. We'll be there to let the inspector in. Usually the inspector starts from the outside of the house and then works his way in, and then starts from the up and works his way down. He'll be pointing out things along the way that are concerning or just general maintenance information. And then once the inspection is all completed, he'll go over all of the main things that he found during the inspection, usually on an iPad. That inspection then later that day will be sent to you and to me, and we'll have a conversation about what, if anything, that you want the seller to fix. Occasionally you'll find surprises in an inspection that are just too much for you to work through, and you may decide that this house just isn't the right house for you, and we'll help you through that conversation. Sometimes it's things, actually most times it's things that can be fixed, and we have contractors that we know and trust that can help with that process. For instance, mold is something that I would say 30 to 40% of the homes that we deal with have in the attic. And it's something that can easily be remediated. The reason for the mold can be remediated, and there's a warranty that usually goes with that. So I'll talk to you about things that can be fixed, things that maybe can't be fixed, and help you decide what items, if any, that you want the seller to fix. Once we have that conversation, we'll put together what's called a removal of contingency document, which is the list of items that you would want the seller to fix. And then it's up to the seller to get those things done. Now, occasionally you'll put together that list and the seller will say, I'm not doing one item or any of those items. And then it's up to you to decide whether you still want to move forward with the transaction. Or occasionally the seller will say, I'm not going to fix it, but I'll give you a credit in lieu of. And if that's something that's agreeable, then we're good with that as well. Once the removal of contingency is signed, then the transaction will move forward. Still have the appraisal ahead of us, but it's that inspection contingency that usually is the reason a house sale does not go through. So while we're talking about inspections, let's review the type of inspections that you may be going through or what your options are. Your general inspection is the one that everybody gets, unless you're waiving inspections completely. And your general inspector is going to know a little bit about everything. He's going to get on the roof and in the attic, look at the plumbing, the electricity, the appliances, but he's not an expert at anything. And occasionally he'll come across something that is problematic and he just doesn't know the answer. So he might recommend a further inspection. So when we do an offer, we click the box on the bottom that says as deemed necessary by General Home Inspection. So if you need your chimney checked or your AC checked or foundation checked, these are those things that the general is going to trigger, but then we're going to have that follow-up inspection. Other things you're going to see on your offer is the ability to do a radon check. That's something that can't be seen or known unless you have a radon mitigation or a radon monitor in your basement. Generally they leave that for 2 days, either before the inspection or after the inspection, and if radon is high, it's something that we should talk to the seller about mitigating. If you have a whole wood house, like a cedar house, you probably want to consider a pest inspection. Your general is going to look for some of that, but because you have a cedar house, you need to be more cognizant of that. Mold, generally speaking, your general is going to be looking for that, and if we find mold, we can get a mold company in there to give us an estimate on what needs to be done with that. Lead-based paint If it's an older house that has a lot of chip paint, you might want to consider that, but you don't see that too often on an offer. All right, here we go. Let's get that inspection done and hopefully all is well. If you have any questions, call me at my personal number, 330-562-4409.